Steve Prator, Caddo Parish Sheriff. Hey, Mr. Steve, welcome back. Great talking to you as always.
Well, it's good talking to you.
We had a conversation last hour with Caddo Assistant DA Wilbert Pryor. And he said at the heart of the recent and maybe even not so recent gun violence in Shreveport, he says it's juvenile gangs, youth gangs, what he called apartment gangs. Tell us about that.
Well, we have a juvenile problem, but we call them juveniles now. But if you remember, last year the age went up from 17 to 18. So we got 17-year-olds that we still call kids and juveniles, and I think that's a mistake to begin with, because the 17-year-olds these days, it's like a Western book I'm reading right now, where you have a 12-year-old boy that's a wrangler, and he's out wrangling cows, and people are more mature back then, and they're more mature now. You have 17-year-old heathens out there that carrying guns and everything else. We're calling them kids.
Sheriff, your phone's breaking up just a little bit, but the Grayson Butcher is proposing, again, we've heard this before, that the Sheriff's Office and state police start helping with patrolling more suburban areas of the city, relieving some SPD units to the higher crime areas. How do you do that? How soon could you start helping if this was one of the answers?
I wish Grayson would quit saying things like that. He's coming from a position of not knowing what our resources are and not knowing what we do already in the city of Shreveport. We do a tremendous amount in the city already, including doing some special patrols, special operations, narcotics. We do primarily narcotics in the city, financial crimes in the city. And besides that, we're 15 down on patrol right now, 15 short on patrol. And we only have 60 on patrol to begin with, so you can figure out the numbers. That's 25%. So we're in critical shape just as much as Shreveport, so it's difficult for us. So Grayson means well and all. We're already stretched so thin in the parish, and we're trying to hold on to what we have. So that's not very realistic. Now, one of the things he keeps talking about is, like I talked about in the June, I published an 11-point crime plan of what we needed to do in our area, and it was comprehensive, it was all-inclusive, and it was what we needed to do about violent crime in Caddo Parish and Shreveport. And it deals with getting some space to put in some of these juveniles and lock them up. And I don't mean lock them up and throw away the key, but they have to be held accountable for what they do. They have to fear punishment when they don't follow the rules. And right now there is no fear for punishment.
But we have 24 beds. Where are you going to put them?
That's what I'm saying. It's the Caddo Parish Commission has been dealing with this thing for years and years, and we've been crying the song. We've got to have a place for juveniles. I'm not, I'm all for one of these crime summits, and I'm all for getting together and talking about what needs to be done. But damn it, if nobody does anything, if we sit around and talk about basketballs and after-school programs and free lunches, which is all good things, okay? And we're at a critical time.
Your phone's goofing up. Will you kick it? Will you kick it?
Okay, I don't know if this is any better, but I'm on my office on the 7th floor.
No, that's markedly better right where you are.
Right where you are is good, yeah.
Yeah, so please continue.
Okay,
sorry.
but I'm not for basketball games and all of that business to do something about the critical state that we're in. We aggressive police work, aggressive in prosecution, guns off the street immediately. We've got to do some things and then work on the preventative measures. We could be doing things right now. The school board could open up the gymnasiums in the afternoons and the evenings for kids and staff it with coaches and give them something to do. The media could be publicizing more of these things. The universities need to be the ones studying what's going on in our area. What can we do? What are the prosecution rates? What are the arrest rates? If there's a problem with police reports and the way that we're doing policing, we need to change that. Maybe instead of everybody talks about community-oriented policing, and that's great, but that's a philosophy. That's not a unit. Okay,
let
that's
me
the
read
way
you
we ought to.
let me read you this text that I got that a teenager has told local folks, a teenager who's been involved in crime. Juvie is nothing more than a bed and video games and movies. That really is not a deterrent. Can we do more when we do lock them up to punish them?
Well, I'm not. I don't have any idea about the juvenile rehabilitation system, and I know juveniles are not. There's. I don't. Yeah, I personally think we could. We need to be doing something to where they don't. Evidently, they're not going to listen to the parents. So I don't know. I don't know, Aaron, if we need to be punishing them more. But I do know they need to be segregated from those that will follow the rules. And that's the problem we have.
Another of Grayson Butcher's suggestions is to, quote, start negotiations with Sheriff Prator to directly book city prisoners into CCC, sell or donate the city jail to Caddo Parish for increased juvenile detention beds. Sounds logical. Is it doable?
We don't have space, number one, at CCC. We are completely overfilled. We're over the capacity. And we are something, I believe it's 26 deputies short there. So we don't have the room or the staff. And I know Grayson's got, he's got a good heart for this, very passionate about this. But that's not a realistic answer to the situation. That's just not doable. And we're having to hold some juveniles over there now. Some judges are ordering us to hold juveniles. And we can't legally do that because they can't be out of sight. So that's throwing us kind of in a wad out there. So we're trying to deal with that. So there's a lot of people with a lot of suggestions, and they're good-hearted and good-meaning suggestions. But right now, we just got to have some aggressive policing and a lot of it, and stop people from doing what they're doing if we can. And that's got to happen first. We got to get a mindset that if you carry a gun and you get caught, you're going to jail.
Aggressive policing, stop and frisk?
If that's what it takes, yeah. If that's what it takes. Now, I mean, you got to have a reason to stop and frisk. You can't just stop somebody on the side of the road. We've got to have elected leaders that will stand behind the police. Now, I'm not talking about it. Everybody knows I'm not talking about abuse, and I'm not talking about getting out there and being cowboys. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about the elected officials standing behind the police and the pastor standing behind the police when they go out and they have to do an operation in a neighborhood, and they might search somebody that doesn't have a gun on them. Well, I'm sorry, that happens sometimes. That's just got to happen, and then we need to get these kids off the street. They don't need to be out at that time of night. We need to have. When I was chief of police, I set up the curfew center, and that was a drop-off point where the officers, because we were short-handed back then and having a ton of homicides, but we knew we needed to get the kids off the street. So I worked out a deal with Rutherford House. For years, we ran a drop-off center, where all the officer had to do was just take the juvenile and take them over there and drop them off at there, and then a civilian took care of the paperwork and finding the parents, and then if a certain number of times the parents could be held accountable for it for not taking care of the kids.
Let me follow up on that, because you sound like you're getting a little in a tizzy on this, and I appreciate that, because I am too. A lot of these teenagers have no parents at home that seem to give a care. When we say hold the parents accountable, what would Steve Prator do to the mom of these teenagers who shot up our city this weekend?
Well, if they just slipped out the window and they're usually there, I wouldn't know. But if they've got a pattern of being ungovernable and it hadn't been, and she or he, parents, have not tried to work with the system to try to maintain some kind of order. You can't just birth a child and spin it like a top and then walk away from it. You have a responsibility. And that responsibility is not being met quite often. Now, sometimes it is being met and the child is ungovernable, and that's the case, and the system has a solution to assist the parents right now, all we have, Aaron, is everybody throwing up a bunch of ideas, and as soon as we go 3 weeks without any shootings, if we were able to do that, then everybody's going to forget it, and we're going to go back to ground zero with nobody doing anything. And I'm tired of people just talking and talking, and nobody ever do anything about it. And then when we have big meetings, it's people coming up saying that we need to treat people more kindly and make sure that they have plenty to eat. Well, that's fine, but that's not the business of law enforcement. That's our business. Our business is to enforce the law and to maintain a peaceful society out there, and we're not able to do that right now.
Caddo Sheriff Steve Prator, thanks for your candor, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay.
1017 FM, 710 KEEL, Fletcher and Sports, just a couple of seconds away. Here's Ruben.